Hi all, just wanted to share a bit of information about the quiz last week as well as kind of wrap things up from last week to this week. So just going to hop over here quick. So last week we talked a bit about operations, quality, process improvement, probably a greater focus on the process improvement side of the world. We had a written assignment. We didn't have a discussion board last week, obviously, because of typically the synchronous class would have been last week. But we did have a written assignment, and hopefully you found it interesting to kind of dig into quality improvement a little bit. It's a very important part of our industry, and one that we're becoming more and more focused on due to the nature of the payment system today in value-based purchasing, value-based reimbursement. So really important elements of this kind of starter class, but as you move along in our program, you'll learn more about Lean and Six Sigma. And if you have interest in those areas, there are even certifications, tests, etc. you can take in those areas. Six Sigma in particular is one that I'm very familiar with, and you can kind of certify yourself as various levels of Six Sigma trained. So that was last week. This week is our last full week of the class. Remember, our next week is a short week, Monday to Friday. So this week we're going to focus on financial management, economics, reimbursement. So this is really kind of what keeps the engine running. I always tell people that it's so important to understand and learn how financial management works and how reimbursement works. There's a lot of misunderstanding out there right now with the notion of value-based purchasing, and I think we've even addressed this a little bit in the class, in the discussions and whatnot throughout our class so far. There's this kind of fallacy that all of payments that are received by providers now are based on the patient satisfaction scores that facilities receive, or the way the patients feel about their care, and that's not necessarily the case. It can impact your payment, your Medicare payment, in a negative way if you receive a preponderance of poor patient satisfaction scores. However, if you receive a preponderance of poor patient satisfaction scores, you probably have a problem that needs to be dealt with. So a few patients that are upset and not happy with their care, or some patients that do not fill out the survey, are not going to really negatively impact the total population. And I think it's important to keep in mind that patient satisfaction is just one element of the value-based purchasing system. So there are other elements as well with regard to quality that go into even just that particular program. Payments, especially for Medicare, since these are Medicare rules, payments are still based on the services provided and or the patient's diagnosis in the hospital setting and in the physician practice setting. So it's important to not confuse the impact of that, of those patient satisfaction scores, etc. But so you'll get some info in our reading this week, and then also some basic information about the economics of our industry. We are the most expensive healthcare function in the world, yet our outcomes do not come even close to what the outcomes of other countries are. So important to keep in mind. And then, so we do have an individual case study that's due this week. I just want to remind everyone, it's an individual case study. So this is not a group one. You'll be working on this on your own and then submitting it to this Dropbox here in the classroom. So I think that's that. Let me hop over to the quiz. So a few quiz questions to review this week. First one is, the term effectiveness of clinical care can be addressed with which of the following questions? So keep in mind that with effectiveness, and it talks about this in our textbook on page 147, effectiveness is about, are the right things done? So are the right things being done to to meet the needs of this this patient. This care is that meeting the needs of this patient. So effectiveness is about are the right things being done, and then the other side of this coin is efficiency. So are things being done properly, or are things being done right? That is the efficiency side of the coin. So in this case, we're talking about effectiveness. So are the right things being done is our correct answer in this case. Next question. It says about Donabedian and his definition of healthcare quality. So that is on page 146 and 147 in our classroom. But what this particular question is talking about is which of the following components that are listed here are part of the definition or the overall components of healthcare quality. So social management of health and illness and quality of the nursing education, neither of those are correct. But on the top of page 147, you'll see that there are 4 components that they listed: technical management of health and illness, the management of interpersonal relationships between the providers and their clients, the amenities of care, and then the ethical principles that govern the conduct of affairs, etc. So our correct answer is the ethical principles, and that is one of the 4 components that make up the overall definition that Donabedian feels is applicable to quality. Now, keep in mind that there are multiple definitions. Actually, our next question is going to deal with a different definition. So our next question is, definition of quality provided by the Institute of Medicine is the most widely accepted definition of healthcare quality, and that is the case, the IOM definition. So which of the following here are not parts of that definition? And the definition itself is on page 146, kind of in the middle of the page. The definition states that high-quality health services should be effective, achieving desired health outcomes for individuals. They should achieve desired health outcomes for populations while matching the societal preferences. And they should adhere to professional standards and base treatments on their efficacy. This one here, the 3rd bullet, the 4th bullet, and the 5th bullet all make up that definition. But this option here, the one that's highlighted, they should provide value consistent with the cost structure of the healthcare organization. That is not part of the definition of healthcare quality at this point. So bottom 3 are, the second one is not part of that definition. So that is the end of our review there. So going into this week, as I've already talked about, we're going to be looking at financial management and economics. We do have the case study. We have a discussion in talking about how we might be able to improve the rising cost of healthcare. And then also I have included, scroll back up here, there's a blueprint for the final exam, which is next week. Remember, the final exam needs to be taken by Friday next week. Our weekends on Friday because our new classes begin on Saturday for the second 8 weeks of the spring term. So this blueprint will hopefully give you some idea of where questions lie, what types of questions they are, etc. But if you do have any additional questions on that, please just let me know. So I think that's all I have, and I look forward to seeing everyone in the discussion this week.